Have somebody recognized the direction change? Have somebody recognized the direction change of the rotation? It looks. I make it backwards. You can see. I make it fast.
Oh, yeah.
It rotates anti-clockwise, and you go here.
Clockwise.
It rotates clockwise.
That's very cool.
Dude, they don't believe all that
You
shit, and
only
that's
recognize
projected
you
and
make
shit.
it in a fast forward. If you see it slowly, you barely recognize the change. I don't.
Dude, I often told those people, hey, record your night sky at night, and watch it and see the rotation is anti-clockwise. Go to the south, record it again, see the same result, but then, hey, it's clockwise now. And the explanation they give, it's being projected.
The big problem is how we get to the second point of rotation in the sky and flat Earth.
Well, it's being
like postulating that the ISS is a hologram.
The only possible way to do it is the sky to rotate if you go to the south. But then the people in the north don't see the North Star anymore.
But you can still see evidence of the rotation. It's continuous evidence. Even when you look north, you can see it rotating not the wrong direction, but clockwise and anti-clockwise. Counter.
Definitely looks like we have two poles of rotation just from observation. That's pretty good evidence.
I think the southern pole's fake. I think it's some sort of perspective phenomenon. I think the only true one's the North Pole.
Well, reflecting would be cool, but it should be a replication of the previous image. So, like the Southern Cross should appear backwards in the northern hemisphere.
I guess that's if it's a reflection, but what if it's just perspective?
There is no North Star in the south. There is no central star.
Okay, so better EMAP then you would need perspective to pull greater than 80 to pull greater than 120 degrees left or right. Explain that one.
When we see none.
I think we're getting somewhere with this concave mirror thing, because a concave mirror can flip the image, and with the circular star trails, perhaps it's being flipped and inverted by perspective in a concave dome mirror.
Didn't you ignore the fact that the stars? Yeah, didn't the same stars would be there, just inverted?
It would be
not what we see.
What was that?
It's not what we see, though, is it? We don't see the same stars reflected or flipped round or an image or distorted or whatever. No, we see completely different stars,
And
completely different constellations.
Where is your central point of rotation on flat Earth in the south? Where is it?
Well, the top part of the arch would be like the rainbow in that it looks like an arch it's close to the ground, but it's actually a throwaway ring with a suspension above the ground. And then the rest of the image, the other half of the image is flipped and inverted by the concave dome mirror. That's enough woo for me to go with right there.
But they're not the same stars, Lemon, as you've already admitted yourself. And for it to be an inverted image, we would require the same objects to be present. And we could actually look at that. And when we look at the two different night sky between the north and the south, we have completely different stars and constellations. So it cannot be a flipped image based on perspective.
So you're not going to assert that any longer. So you're not going to assert that any longer, correct?
You'd only need half the image. Like the arch of the rainbow, you'd need half of the image for a circular trail, and then the other half of the image would be flipped and inverted by the concave dome mirror. That's all that you need.
Where is the rotation point? Where's the central rotation point on the flat Earth in the south? Where is it?
There is no rotation point. They're rotating over and around us, so that's enough for half of the image right there of the night sky, and the other half would be flipped and inverted by a dome mirror and perspective or whatever.
How did this look like? It's rotating around the plane.
Hold on.
It's on the dome. In the south, the stars rotating around the plane. How did this look like? Did this look like a central rotation?
Listen to his claim first.
On the flat Earth.
Claim is that at least half of the southern star trail is like the arch of the rainbow, and the other half is a flipped and inverted concave dome image from perspective.
But it's not the same
Okay,
image.
now, do you have any demonstrations of that actually being able to be duplicated in real life?
Only concave mirrors and flipping and inverting the image if they get far enough away from the mirror.
Is that a yes or is that a no?
It's
You're
in
able
parts.
to demonstrate the principles that you're talking about.
Yeah, I can give you at least 2 parts of it. The concave mirror flipping and inverting the
I don't
image,
need words.
and the other part would be the
Words don't
rainbow,
mean
making a hula hoop band ring that's suspended above the ground look like an arch because you're close to the ground. That's at least half of it.
What?
How about the whole bit of your claim? Everything you just claimed can be demonstrated because those are aspects that can be scaled down. So
The whole thing?
why don't
No.
you show us? Why don't you show us? Yeah, everything. Your glass dome, you can even make it as reflective as you want, man. You can even do all kinds of stuff. You can sit there and put lights and everything to sit there and try to get it to do the thing you're saying that it does. If you can't make it do it, then it doesn't do it.
I think Rob Skiba did like some of it with
I'm not
revolving
talking about
candles or revolving star
shit.
trail with a lens. I think he did a miniature representation of it, but I don't know if that was
live in a lens. We don't live in a half dome lens, right? We live in a lovely little air pocket, if you want to call it that.
Well,
and
you guys have part of your model with the Cavendish, but you don't really show things being attracted into a ball. So by your own standard, if you can do part with the Cavendish experiment, then I can do part with the star trail thing too. So let's not be hypocrites.
We're not trying to demonstrate gravity pulling something into a ball with the Cavendish. We're just demonstrating the existence of gravity.
He's just doing a red herring.
And we can demonstrate that a hula hoop band of rainbow suspended above the ground looks like an arch from the ground, that part. And we can demonstrate a concave mirror like the firmament, basically inverting the image after it gets past the focal point. So you got your parts, we got our parts.
Would not be a concave mirror. You'd be looking at the rim of a concave mirror, and that's not gonna give you what you're looking for.
It looks something
he doesn't
like
want to do the entire thing because he knows it doesn't work.
Well, if you guys want to be scientific hypocrites and demand full demonstration, despite the fact that you can't even fully demonstrate gravity pulling things into a ball for the full elements of your model, then go ahead.
That's a red herring.
I can make an animation about
this.
That's
the truth.
Scientific hypocrites. Why?
I'm sorry. Like, you seem to be
having low standard of proof.
Linkwick, if you want to model that would be
and
awesome.
Now you want
just
a
to show
higher
Lemon how
standard
stupid his idea is.
The Star Trail model that I just put out, that's scientifically hypocritical. You accepted a low standard of proof for gravity, and now you're putting me up to this high standard.
It isn't science. It isn't scientifically hypocritical if it's not science.
Lemon,
You're not presenting science.
Lemon, I don't need any model. Just can you identify the same stars in the south and in the north?
Any of them?
I think Lemon might have gotten pissed and left.
I think if you also get into looking at a concave mirror, there's really weird things that happen to the objects that are.
Lemon does that when he knows he's wrong. He believes.
Yeah. God help him. He's trying to say it could be a concave mirror. There's a major problem with that. Is he'd be looking at the rim of the mirror and he wouldn't be getting a circle. He would be getting all sorts of crazy shit. And as he walked around it, it would warp. It wouldn't follow him.
It wouldn't reflect the stars from the opposite side.
Have you ever seen this guy before, Brian?
I don't know. I'm not looking at the chat.
Oh, well, I just posted it.
There's no second half of the mirror to reflect.
He goes through the way to determine what a telescope can resolve on the moon. But technically anywhere.
Interesting.
Even does it with the human eye. So with the human eye, we can see something that's 58 kilometers wide on the moon. That's what he determined with math.
But now, if you had a concave mirror, have you tried every possible shape of concave?
I don't think Lemon understands how concave mirrors work in the first place.
No, they do bizarre things.
I honestly feel sorry for you, Globs.
No, that's okay. You're a moron. So
it's one thing to to not be exposed to the truth and to just be brainwashed and not know. You're naive to the argument and you just were taken advantage of. But it's another thing entirely to be, immersed in the argument, know there's no definitive evidence, and still be willing to be cucked into this.
Well, there's shitloads of evidence, though.
There's no definitive evidence for the heliocentric model. You're on the front lines of this.
You call it not definitive, and I call it good evidence.
No, it's by definition not definitive. It's literally not definitive because there's other
nothing
explanations.
Is definitive. Nothing on Earth, nothing, zero, zilch is definitive.
That's incorrect, bro.
Yo,
Mr. Then you have evidence that they're flat.
Dude, do you believe in bacteria and shit?
Yeah, there's bacteria.
Can you show me proof right now that they exist?
Yeah, there's proof that they exist.
Okay, and
can you show me proof right now that they
exist for yourself that they exist, or do you accept what they told you about bacteria?
You have to be more specific.
You believe in
we know bacteria exist because we can culture them, we can image them.
Have you?
Yeah, but we can do.
Yeah, actually, I have cultured bacteria.
We do the same with the sun, planets, galaxies, and all that shit. We do the same thing. The same thing that you accept from bacteria, it's the same for Earth. It's the same for.
No, it's not the same at all.
You can choose for yourself what to believe or not. That's all on you. I don't have a problem with that. But if you people believe in other things you can't see and shit, and you do believe that, but you skip the Earth part, then I'm flabbergasted. I truly am. I truly am.
I know you are, because you're saying they're the same thing when they're not the same thing at all. You can't verify anything about the heliocentric model. There's no definitive evidence whatsoever.
If a rocket with a camera goes on it, and the only thing you can say is CGI, and you can also accept that it's a real camera recording what's happening.
Well, what you're not understanding is that he doesn't accept the camera on the rocket because there's no camera watching someone put the camera on the rocket.
No, it's fine with having cameras on rockets, right? But at no point do you know that the thing actually went into space. At no point do you know that it's not propelling off of the atmosphere. You haven't demonstrated it propelling off of in a vacuum.
Oh, I have
whatsoever.
But okay, let's say you and I are on a field.
He denies it.
No. Oh, let's say you and I are on a field with a small rocket that can also launch in, like this GoPro rockets. They launch into space. Trust me. Okay, so if we are there,
I'm not gonna trust you. Give me evidence.
He was still talking.
This will be the evidence. You and me on the same field with a rocket like that. What is proof for you? What do you need to believe it?
A hole in his head.
To believe that the thing is in space? I would like a demonstration, a small scale demonstration first that astronautics is possible in a vacuum chamber.
What? Can you say that again?
Yeah, but that's already.
He wants space in a vacuum
where you can see.
Yeah, I want to know that we can propel.
That's been done.
Vacuum.
Hold on.
That's not been done.
As you just keep denying it.
Hold on.
So let him talk. What is not being done?
A small scale demonstration of astronautics has not been done. Equivalent to space has not been done.
A propulsion in a vacuum chamber, that's been done.
Propulsion in a vacuum chamber akin to space. Yes. So don't get me some dinky little vacuum chamber where the vacuum stops being a vacuum as soon as it starts exhausting, and then it exhausts off of the chamber or off of its own exhaust. I want it akin to space.
Here's the thing: you are arguing against Newton's laws of motion when you say stupid shit like that.
No, I'm not.
Yes. Okay, so
maybe Newton's laws of motion require atmosphere.
They
Have
don't.
you ever considered that?
They don't.
Maybe they do. Maybe you just don't know because it's never been tested.
You don't know. If you don't know, you shut the fuck up. We're telling
Newton's
you.
laws of motion were always tested. They were always experimentally tested in atmosphere, in the world.
Doesn't need it. Yes, and it doesn't need it.
So that's why.
Show us. You guys claim that astronautics is possible and that we have all these 20,000 different satellites in orbit and all this other bullshit, all these hundreds of launches and all this other crap, and you can't demonstrate it once in a vacuum.
Yeah,
come on.
You're living under a rock. It's not my fault, man.
It should be seen. What needs to be demonstrated?
Demonstrate that you can have this little
Rockets
itty bitty
in
rocket
in
propelling
vacuum.
in the vacuum
No?
that's near like space. It doesn't even have to be as like low pressure space. You can have it 1 times 10 to the -8 for all I care. -7 for all I care.
No.
Yeah. So
Have it so it's propelling off of like nothing, and it's just and the the exhaust is dispersing equally as if it would be in space. This almost infinite vacuum of space. It's dispersing. It's equalizing as quickly as it can. It's maintaining the vacuum. All of that. Not it's hitting the wall and it's exhaust. It's propelling off its own exhaust or its own bullshit.
What if I got that same?
Sorry, okay, go ahead.
So what if I got that? What if I got that same test in a vacuum chamber and in air? I showed you that the rocket actually has more propulsion than deep in the vacuum before.
That would be great.
So in a small, even though it has air forming in there, it's not going to go up above atmospheric pressure. So
no, I want it
every
to
rocket
be a
launcher
vacuum
can
like
see
space.
that they go to space. You see the exhaust is widen out in the vacuum of space. If you look to the rocket launch.
What's that?
Go to the rocket launch, SpaceX. You can see the rocket exhaust is.
That's what we're trying to prove.
Vacuum of space.
That's what we're trying to prove. So to point to it as proof is circular logic. We're trying to prove that.
Hold on.
No, it's
Yeah,
really
you see
not
it,
though,
you
is
see
it? Saying
It is.
something exists and then somebody saying no, that doesn't exist, and well, yes, it does. There it is.
No,
it's not circular logic.
It is circular logic. Because we're not talking about whether it exists.
Pointing to it. It's pointing to. Well, look, we can see a rocket working in a vacuum. You can
We're
just
not talking
watch a
about whether
rocket
it
launch.
exists. We're talking about whether it's happening in space, and he's trying to point to that. That's what the argument is about.
But we can see it. We can see it happening in space.
No, we can't. We don't know that.
Yes,
we
we
just see it
can.
in the air. We don't know.
Yes, we can.
Dude, the demarcation between atmosphere and space is a random one. It's an arbitrary one. So
Right.
to say that it's automatically happening in space is
Therefore,
absolutely intellectually dishonest.
So therefore, seeing this in a vacuum chamber wouldn't prove anything to you, would it?
No, if we see it in a
Wouldn't
vacuum
prove
chamber
anything
akin
to you.
space,
Wouldn't prove anything to you about real life because you would just say, "Well, we don't know if it's a vacuum up there."
Again,
you've shown it
would
working
prove
in a
that it's
vacuum,
possible.
but where it's working might not be a vacuum. So I win. That's what you're saying, right?
No, that might that would be a separate issue. But it would definitely give a lot of it would be good evidence that the thing is possible.
Yeah, we have to remember the day that he argued that since there's no external barometer on an air on a shuttle that he wouldn't accept it.
When we see a rocket working at 80,000 feet, you're saying in order to prove that it's actually working as described, you need to see it working in a vacuum. Why? If you don't know that at 80,000 feet it's a vacuum, why are you demanding you see it in a vacuum?
Just to see if their whole spiel about astronautics being possible is even true. Because if it's not true, if we can't demonstrate it whatsoever,
true, would it?
Then,
It wouldn't
then there's
make
no
it true.
astronautics, period.
But how would it make it true? That would prove that a rocket worked in a vacuum, but it wouldn't prove.
Again, I said that's something else.
Listen. It wouldn't prove, as you say, it working in space as described.
No, it wouldn't. It
because
wouldn't
according
necessarily
to you,
absolutely prove
according to you, we
rocket. Okay, can I respond?
According to you, we don't know what space is.
Okay.
Well, it could. It just seems like there's a contradiction here. Because on the one hand, you're saying you need to see it working in a vacuum to believe that it can work in space. And on the other hand, you're saying, when I see it working in space, I don't know that it's actually working in a vacuum.
Okay, you're speaking about two different things right here. Number one if it doesn't work in a vacuum, then it definitely cannot be in space. We know that. So this is like a litmus test to see if that's the case.
Why? Why
do we? Work in a vacuum,
why do we know that?
Because if it's
why
not
do we know
working
that?
in a small scale demonstration, then it's not going to work in the large scale demonstration.
In your worldview, you don't know that if it doesn't work in a vacuum, it's not working in space, or vice versa.
No, we do know that.
How
do you? If you make it akin to the vacuum of space, then it's comparable. And you'll know if it doesn't work in that, then it's not going to work if you have just more, like, if it's just an open thing and not in a container.
Okay,
why did you change your narrative?
Hold on. So we're absolutely agreed that there is a vacuum of space. That is true for both of us.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so why do you need to see it working in a vacuum if you don't know that there's a vacuum of space?
Because we're testing the claim, so we're taking it for granted that we're presupposing that there's a vacuum of space.
But it wouldn't test the claim.
It may not be true in actuality. We're presupposing the narrative, right? And so we're going to test that.
What for?
We're going to simulate the environment of space.
Why? How can you simulate an environment when you don't know what that environment is?
The environment is just like a pressure of 1 × 10 to the negative 17.
We're not agreed on that.
And I said myself, we don't even have to get that far.
You've disagreed with that. You don't agree with that being the environment. You don't know what the environment is.
I said we just don't know if it's actually
true. Yes, you did.
When did I disagree?
Right, so what's the point in testing it?
I said we're going to take it for granted. You know what that means?
It would prove that the claim that a rocket can work in a vacuum is true, but it wouldn't prove that a rocket can work in space. To you, would it?
No, it's the same one and the same. So the claim is that the rockets work in the vacuum of space in 1 × 10 to the negative 17 torr. That's what the claim is.
Right, but that wouldn't prove that they work in space.
It would prove that they don't work in space.
In the reality that we share, it wouldn't get you any closer to knowing whether a rocket can do what it said.
So if again we're simulating space and we can't get it and it's not working for whatever reason, that means that in the same pressure above, then it's not going to work.
Good.
You don't know that it's the same pressure above. You're borrowing that from
even higher pressure.
Let me know, man.
Either way, their claim would be debunked.
Yo, listen up. First of all, for you may not know there is vacuum in space or there is. You don't know that. That's what you just said, right?
We don't know how kind of low the pressure goes, to be fair.
Okay, that's cool. So the point is, even if the rocket goes as far as into space, you will not believe it. So therefore, it is not vacuum.
No.
That is what the answer will be. That's that's often the problem with flat earthers.
That's incorrect though, because we're just testing the claim. The claim is that it's propelling in 1 × 10 to the negative 17 torr. That's the claim, right?
Are you gonna?
So we're testing that claim. We're going as far as we can get, as close as we can get.
How are you gonna check that?
It wouldn't get you any closer to knowing what's actually happening in reality, would it?
Again, how we're going to check that is to simulate space. In a vacuum chamber, we have a big vacuum chamber, a really small itty bitty rocket, and we see if it can propel.
But in reality, you don't know what space is percentage. You keep telling us that. You don't know what it is.
It doesn't matter. We're testing the claim.
Could be water. Could be water for all you know.
It doesn't matter.
But it doesn't get you any closer. It tests
very
only
small
the claim. It tests only the claim, doesn't it? Doesn't test.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing. We're testing
in
the claim,
reality.
And if the claim is false, that means that it's not propelling in space. Simple as
but
that.
It just doesn't get you any closer to what's happening in reality.
It does get us closer to reality, because then we'll know that those rockets aren't actually propelling in space. They're propelling in
the
atmosphere or something else, right?
It doesn't tell you that percentage. It tells you that they can't propel in a vacuum. It doesn't tell you that they're not working in space, because according
space
to
is
you...
a vacuum. That's the claim.
Now you're saying it is... A minute ago, you said you don't know what it is.
No, that's
which is it?
That's the claim,
is it a vacuum, or do you not know it's a vacuum?
To understand. I know you're trying to you're trying to
discount my argument
to
somehow. Understand.
Space. The claim is with space is that it's 1 × 10 to the negative 17 torr.
I understand what the claim is.
It's not hard.
I understand what the claim is. We're not talking about the claim. We're talking about your perception.
I'm not talking about my perception of
anything. Why are you interrupting? We're talking about your perception of reality, making.
Jam, please just shut the fuck up, man. You are again ruining something with constant bickering on the same point. Fuck it, forget it.
So
he's trying to discount my argument by making it about me and my perception of reality. When in reality, all I want to do is test the claim.
I'm making the point. I'm making the point that this doesn't prove anything to you. And at the end of it, if we showed you a rocket working in a vacuum, you'll just say, "Well, we don't know if it's a vacuum," and you won't be any closer to knowing the truth of anything.
No, we'll be closer because we'll know at least it's possible.
You won't know it's possible because you don't know it's a vacuum.
On a small scale, that would give it more credence. It would be more. You give the claim more credibility. You understand that, right?
Where's your vacuum chamber? No. Where's your vacuum chamber?
I don't have
where
one.
You were testing the claim.
We can see it actually happening in reality. We can see it actually happening in reality, and your only reason for denying that is we don't know if that's actually doing it in a vacuum. And then you say, if you show me it in a vacuum, that will tell me something about what's happening in reality. That makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
You're honestly confused because again, I have not once said that these rockets aren't actually, propelling or taking off or anything like that. Of course, we see the rockets propelling on TV and crap like that. I don't believe that those images are doctored. But the claim is made that they're propelling in space, in outer space, in 1 × 10 to the -17 torr. That's the claim.
We can
it's
see
not whether
that
or not
happening.
these rockets are propelling.
We can see all of that.
Please stop interrupting me, because I let you talk and now you let me talk.
We can see all of those things happening with our own eyes.
Really? You see a barometer attached showing the pressure being 1 × 10 to the -17 torr?
We've agreed that it's a vacuum of space. There we go. The claim is tested.
The claim hasn't been actually proven. What are you talking about?
Yes, it is.
Put the picture in the chat. Look to it.
We've agreed it's a vacuum of space.
My picture in the chat shows you a barometer, or a form of a barometer.
Well, flat earthers keep saying all this stuff. Where's y'all's rockets?
It's the only picture I posted recently.
Where's the barometer?
Is it that flat earthers?
The exhaust gases coming out of the rocket.
That's not a barometer.
Yes,
sure
it is.
No, it's not.
It shows there's no pressure outside.
Maybe, or maybe
If
it's
you
a
deny it, you're
different type
stupid.
of gas, or maybe
If you deny it,
something
you're
else happened.
stupid.
Who knows? Maybe it was an air pocket and it came out weird. You don't know.
Yes.
We need an actual barometer, and
The
ideally an
rocket
analog
is
barometer.
20,000 kilometers per miles per hour. Air pocket.
You want to? What do you
guys
think
have no
actual
fucking proof.
barometers look like?
Percentage, I would like to know, why did you change your claim?
I didn't change my claim.
Yes, you did.
No, he
How did I
didn't.
change it? Go ahead.
Well, you
people
talk.
don't listen. He didn't
no time.
change anything. He just said, hey, if
did
it works in a vacuum chamber, before he says, okay, now it's vacuum, we start the engine, it works. Then for those people, they can say, yeah, okay, maybe it works because we just checked it was a vacuum. That was the proof he needs. He wants it here on Earth in a vacuum chamber. And so he can say, yes, maybe.
That was not the change. There was a different change. He said that vacuum chamber just has to be akin to the vacuum of space. Yet a few days ago, he insisted that that vacuum chamber from that BBC test, from the feather and the bowling ball falling, has to be exactly as space. Otherwise, it would not be valid.
Where did I say that?
would like to,
Hold up, where did I say that? Because this guy's lying out his ass. Where did I say it has to be exactly like space?
You doubted the experiment.
No, bring
because
the evidence right now. You're making a claim about what I said. Where's the evidence?
You're talking over me shows me that I'm correct.
No, where's
Thank
the
you.
recording saying that I said it has to be exactly like space?
You requested that it's the same
Okay,
as
great.
because a
So-
few molecules
so where's the recording?
would disturb that, and you asked for
Where's the
that.
recording?
Where's the
I'm a
recording?
bitch,
Let's go.
Where's the recording? I'm a bitch.
And
Where's
that
the
is quite
recording?
odd. Everybody could hear it, right? That you're
Where's
just
the recording,
suddenly
bro? Because I've
asking
always
for
been saying akin to the vacuum of space. I've been saying that
No.
many times. And when I said
It's-
exactly like in space,
what do you
I probably elaborated and said in terms of the gases dispersing
Probably,
you know,
yeah.
and not touching the walls of the container, and not being stifled in any matter, and you know the vacuum being maintained. I never once said it has to be exactly like space in every regard. Nice try.
A few days ago, I even told you that you seem to have
man, you're lying. If you don't have a recording, you can shut the fuck up.
Listen.
To estimate the sizes of effects, right? And this was the
you're
reason
lying.
why.
If you don't have a recording, you can shut the fuck up.
Oh, chill out, man.
I know that you changed your narrative suddenly, right?
I don't change my narrative, bro. I even
Yes,
said
you did.
every time I've spoken about this, I've even said you don't even have to have it 1 times 10 to the negative 17 because we can't even do that. Apparently, I've said we have it 1 times 10 to the negative 6, 7, 8, 9. But don't lie about me, bro.
Now you're suddenly not requesting that. It just has to be akin to. And what I would predict
don't lie about me. Yo, get a recording or shut the fuck up. Stop making claims. That's what's the wrong with you, Bobs. You make claims and you never prove it. Prove this one, at least. If you can't prove this one.
Now shows you that, then you will change that
this one.
goalpost again, right?
Stop making claims and not proving them. Prove this one. Let's go.
10
Prove
to
you're
the
mad.
minus 17, right? And not just akin to it. But hey, why not cuffing up any assertion?
All you need to do is prove that there's an inverse relationship between atmospheric pressure and rocket efficiency. I'm looking for something.
No, all you need to prove is that Newton's laws of motion are true. If that's true, it doesn't matter if we have vacuum. Hold on. And if he has any objection to Newton's laws of motions about a vacuum, then he needs to prove it.
Newton's laws of motion have been experimented in atmosphere. Okay,
I don't look.
You
They have been
in the space of 1 times 10.
I know. Listen. I know. And they show. Listen, and they show relation between forces, energy, and masses. So we don't care about the atmosphere because it's irrelevant.
Maybe it's not.
No, maybe it's not is on you.
No,
maybe it's not is on you. No, because we think logically, you don't. You say I have another logic that says that if it's a vacuum, it wouldn't work. Then go ahead and prove it.
Bro, all of the evidence we have, all that's how it works. Done was in atmosphere, was on.
Yeah, that's all we need. We don't need anything else. Nothing.
That's the default.
You're making a new claim.
Now you're claiming that it happens in space in 1 times 10 to the negative 17.
No, it happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. High pressure, low pressure, always.
Of orbit. Show the evidence of astronautics. Come on, show it. What are you scared about?
All the fucking proof.
What evidence you
there
need?
is fucking
a demonstration of it.
Shit, dude.
It's not hard. If there's been 20,000 launches, bro, then it shouldn't be hard to show a demonstration of it.
Except for the fact that your requirement.
Buy me a vacuum chamber. I'll show you. Buy me a vacuum chamber. I'll show you.
Like where they have a like barometer that's attached, showing the actual thing on a scale.
Here,
numbers and telemetry data bullshit.
Look at that! I was right about what he was going to object to next.
Anyway, but why shouldn't a rocket work in vacuum? Why?
Brian, what's your screen name right now? I don't see you.
Dr. Brian Peck.
Dr. Brian Peck.
If I eject 20 tons of fuel.
Don't just ignore. Hang on, Iron asked a question, and you all seem to have just ignored it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Have another go, dude.
You know, why wouldn't a rocket work in a vacuum? Why?
Well, according to the theory, it should, right?
No, why wouldn't a rocket work in vacuum? Why wouldn't it just fly?
Who knows? Maybe if it wouldn't, like hypothetically, maybe it requires atmosphere to propel for whatever reason.
No, the whole point of the vacuum is it's easier because there's nothing to hold it back anymore. So it's.
I understand the theory, bro. I understand the claim. It's just never once been substantiated.
Well, it's substantiated in rockets.
Yeah. So
when you look at rockets that are demonstrated, the private hobby rockets, or the really good ones, like I can't remember the name of it, but the ones that go up 100 miles, those actually improve their performance as they go higher. They start accelerating faster and faster and faster as the air gets thinner and thinner.
Wait, 100 miles is in space, right?
as the atmosphere gets thinner and thinner and thinner, the efficiency of the rocket increases.
What's the pressure at 100 miles? That's within space, right? Space?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think 70 miles is the private rocket.
All right, cool. So, do you have any substantiation that these go to 100 miles?
Substantiation. I make no claims, but I question your claims.
Well, we know how fast they're going. We know. Wait, hold on.
There's no evidence that's
We
actually
know how
100 miles.
fast they're going. We know
That's
what
not how you
direction they're
attack.
going, so we know how high they are.
We've been through this.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh, I was hot micing. My bad.
Okay.
I
If
think
know
we
how
should start.
fast sorry, John.
I think we should start charging you guys for borrowing things from our worldview because. I think.
What do you mean, our world view? It's a flat and motionless Earth, bro. As far as our experiences and our observations show, you're trying to hide our world
To
view.
you don't know what the vacuum of space is, but
You're trying to jack our world
you
view.
can prove that things are happening in the vacuum of space in a vacuum chamber on Earth, apparently, for some reason. I don't know how that
Just go look out your window and you'll see a
Horizon is
curved
flat.
and moving
The
Earth.
lights in the sky might have curves. That's the only curve that you'll see. That's about it, bro.
You'll see curve everywhere. Look everywhere.
I see it everywhere.
I don't see him in the server. Checkmate.
I've been in the sea, and
I've seen him here.
I've seen America disappear below
He's
the
not here now,
horizon.
though.
I've seen the sun set. I see different curves.
a minute. Curve's not in the server.
That's that box.
Actually, I'm live from the ISS. You're all on YouTube now.
You have to
Box.
test
You're
that in a,
live from the ISS.
you have to test that in a you have to test
No,
that
I'm
in a vacuum
serious.
chamber. And it cannot be just a vacuum. There must be no particle left in that vacuum chamber, Panda, when you make that. Right?
Right.
Not a single particle. Otherwise it's not valid.
But once
And
you
I can
start the
still
engine, you
change-
have a problem. You
I
have to
can
make
still
particles.
change the goalpost even more. Right?
As soon as you start that engine up, you're going to have particles in the chamber, so it's invalid.
Yeah, they must be instantly removed. There must be no left. They must head straight for the exit of that chamber. Only
Do you
then
guys
it's
not
valid.
like feel even the slightest bit dishonest by making this claim constantly and not being able to substantiate it
It
whatsoever?
has been substantiated many times.
Not
Seeing it happen
not
is pretty good substantiation, I would say, and it is substantiated by all the times that we've seen it demonstrated in the vacuum chamber.
You haven't actually seen
you
them
just
face to face.
you just unreasonably object to those vacuum chambers because they're not big
And
enough,
doesn't that feel
they're the
dishonest?
wrong
And doesn't- and
they're
doesn't
the
that
wrong
feel
shape,
dishonest?
or they're painted with the wrong color, or whatever it may be. But
Yeah, you can make it as absurd as you
Yeah.
want to, but it's a very reasonable
No,
critique
it's not.
of the
It's
thing,
not.
and there
No,
hasn't been
it's
a
not.
single
It's not reasonable.
it's not
demonstration
reasonable in
that
any
is
way.
actually comparable
No.
to propulsion in
No,
outer
it's
space.
not. It's not reasonable at all, percent, because your argument is that even though something will start to move instantly, somehow instantly the entire vacuum was filled up with enough pressure to cause this to be, not moving in a vacuum. Secondly, you disbelieve millions and millions and millions of pictures and video from space, and all the eyewitnesses and all the claims of people that launched these things. And you disbelieve your own eyes when you see footage of this stuff, or when you see rockets and stuff.
All right.
So all this stuff combined together for you to disbelieve
Let's
is
take one at a
what's so
time.
dishonest, I think.
Let's take one at a
The
time.
shotgun
So
in the
for
place,
the
yeah.
first one, where it moves instantly, it only moves instantly because the ignition capsule is atmospherized. Okay?
No, that's not true. That's
It
not
is.
true.
And then
it
it
doesn't
stops
work that
moving,
way. If the
stops moving,
ignition
and then
capsule is
atmosphere.
atmosphere, what does that even?
Responding to
Hold
your
on, what does
four
that even
things.
mean, percent? What does it even mean?
So I'm responding to your four things that you
Yeah,
said.
but what does it even mean though? The ignition capsule
Look
is
it, man.
atmosphere.
I'm gonna forget the rest of the shit.
Well, just tell me what
Yeah,
you mean by it. You
let
can't
him
say
address your
nonsense
point.
and move on.
Ignition capsule is atmospherized. If
What does that mean?
Like they can't actually ignite it in the vacuum of space. They have to have
What?
air in the capsule to actually have it ignite in
They
the first place.
oxidize the fuel.
It's not
That's how they do
combustion.
that.
No, I'm not talking about oxidizing the fuel. I'm talking about the ignition capsule itself is atmospherized. It's not a vacuum there because they have
It's sealed, is what it
ignite
is.
it. Yeah,
It's
it's
not a
a
vacuum, it's
capsule
sealed.
that they ignite it with, and it's atmospherized.
Where they have a rocket, it's
videos,
sealed.
you can see in the warp perception videos, he tries it without atmospherizing the capsule and doesn't ignite. So then he actually does it again and
It depends on what kind of fuel you're using. But what does that have to do with motion, though? We're talking about how
the
it
very
moves.
first motion is that that air being pretty
Wrong. We have video.
powered,
We have
whatever
video
it
of
is.
rockets. We have video of solid state rockets, like the ones that don't have any kind of gas or anything. They're not sealed. They're literally just the kind you put in a model rocket. We have videos of those, and they move instantly.
In a near perfect like in a vacuum akin to
vacuum
space.
in a vacuum.
Yeah, that's all about.
They move instantly without.
Yes, they start to move instantly. Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to see it instantly.
Cody's lab.
Wait. Are those? Hold up. Are those ones? There's no ignition capsule whatsoever. You're saying?
No,
I don't know what you mean by ignition capsule, but it's one of those. It's like solid rocket.
They'll require it to be ignited there.
Did you notice that? Did anyone notice that now?
One that warp perception, I'm pretty sure it's solid fuel as well.
Did anyone notice?
Fuel rockets, you have to get an initial pressure in order for them to ignite. Once they ignite, that little thrust of pushing out the igniter is not enough to make the thing spin up to 5,000 RPMs like it does in Cody's lab.
I don't know if it went that high, but again, that's just a claim that you're making.
Did anyone notice the change again? Now it has to be akin to space. Before it was it doesn't have to be akin to space. Which one is it? Which one
Get off
is
my
it?
dick, bro. It's not hard to
Which one
understand.
is it?
You have
Percentage. Which one is it?
That's
How can
big
you
enough
even?
so that the exhaust will disperse like
How can you even speak without
uninhibited,
biting your tongue?
right? It just evacuates into the chamber, and it's not
You speak
hitting
as
up
if you
the
had a
walls, and
hot
the vacuum is
potato
being
in your
maintained.
mouth.
Okay, it's not hard.
Right? Like swallow the hot potato.
I'm swallowing you.
Okay, moving on.
Different.
You gotta say no homo after that, bro.
So in any event, in any event, you can deny
how
that
they want it.
you can disbelieve that rockets work in space if you want. It isn't really anything anyone can stop you from doing, and that's okay. But to say it's not substantiated is to be dishonest.
There's no definitive evidence for it, Scott.
When you add words like definitive, you're just being arbitrary and silly. There is evidence for it. There's good evidence and convincing evidence to most people. If you disbelieve it, so be it.
Keep on saying that, but
That's your prerogative.
bullshit.
No, it's not.
There's no definitive evidence that rocket.
You keep
is
saying
in
words
one
like
time
definitive,
10 to
which
-17
is really code word for you to say absolute proof, which of course is true. There's no definitive anything, so there's no absolute proof. Agreed, but there's evidence and there's strong evidence and
There's
compelling
no
evidence.
definitive evidence. I'm not saying proof. I'm saying
Yeah.
definitive.
Well, what do you mean by
evidence, 'cause I know that you're a
definitive? What do you
stickler for
mean by
those terms.
definitive then?
There's no evidence showing that it's actually propelling in 1 × 10 to the -17 torque.
Okay, so if by definitive you mean actually showing or proving, then I was right when I said before. What
Beyond
there
reasonable
is
doubt, you mean?
what there is evidence that's compelling and good enough and strong enough for the vast majority of people. It may not be strong enough for you because of arbitrary reasons, but that's on you, not on other
The vast
people.
majority of people are fucking indoctrinated. They're sheep.
I understand that. I understand that. I understand that's your
There's no
perspective.
definitive evidence for anyone with like.
I understand that's your perspective, but when you define definitive to be arbitrary the way you do, and you do that, for example, you disregard all of the claims, the pictures and video, but you're happy to use those things whenever you want to. You just disregard them on things you don't want to. So when you are arbitrary about it, it becomes arbitrary. It becomes your idiosyncratic belief, which is fine. You can
Definition
have
for
those.
definitive, Scott.
Here is the video. I've timestamped it for you.
It's
Watch it
uncontestable.
like 1 second.
No
Okay,
such
so
thing as
no
definitive evidence.
fine, Let's go with uncontestable. Let's
Yeah,
if
so
there's
there's no such thing. So that's why I keep taking issue with that word. Evidence is always
thing is
contestable. You can always
evidence.
make up
Beyond
a
reasonable doubt.
contest.
Hold up, beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Uncontestable beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, that's so subjective that it's impossible for us to quantify, but sure. Anyone
Okay,
can
so-
say that's not beyond reasonable, and the other person can say yes, it is, and then they can just be at an impasse.
So the claim is that this rocket is in 1 × 10 to the -17 torque, and yet there's no barometer
No,
attached.
the claim is not. I don't know what the claim
Wouldn't
that
that
is.
make it
What claim are you
contestable?
talking about? Whose claim?
They're claiming that that rockets are all these like launches and stuff are propelling in space.
Yeah. Okay. In real
1 ×
space, yeah,
to the
sure.
-17 torque, as
Yeah, sure,
they claim,
sure,
right?
sure.
So if that's the claim that it's 1 × 10 to the -17 torque, and there is no substantiation to that, there's no barometer attached showing that, then we can contest it, right?
First of all, I'm not at all sure that there's no barometer attached showing that. For all I know, many of these satellites and rockets do have barometers. I don't know that they don't.
I'd love if they showed us an actual.
I don't know if you'll find video of it.
during the liftoff. That's what he wants. He's had this discussion.
I
before.
don't know if you'll find video of it. I somehow doubt it, or maybe you will if you look hard enough. I doubt you've looked that hard. But it's hardly relevant whether or not you'll find. It's hardly relevant whether or not you'll find video of it, because we can say all kinds of things like that. Like we can say, Well, the distance from a satellite to the moon is a certain distance, and yet there's no laser pointer on there telling you the distance to the moon. Or we could say something like the size of these things is 10 cubic meters, and yet there's no measuring tape attached to these things to show us that they're actually 10 cubic meters. You see how this works? I can make anything up I want, and then I can say there's no thing to illustrate this thing, and then argue that it's therefore not believable.
You're doing this on purpose. Yes,
I'm doing it on purpose. I'm making a point.
As you are wanting.
I'm making a point, which is I'm doing what you're doing, and I'm doing slightly more.
The one claim is that
it's dishonest what you're doing.
1 times 10 to the negative 17 torr. So in order to prove that, they have to show that the barometer or some other method of the pressure actually decreasing to that value.
Your mistake is thinking. Your mistake is thinking. Anyone has to. Hold on, I'm answering you. I'm answering you.
Let's go.
The mistake you're making is thinking that anyone is setting out to answer that question. Like I said, they could all. Oh my God! Percent.
So the proof, the evidence, the definitive evidence should accompany it.
So can I just finish what I'm saying? I can't even hear you at this point, percent, because you're just over talking constantly. So, but no one ever sets out to present this stuff. No one sets out to prove it. You pick some arbitrary detail and say, and then there's nothing to illustrate the detail in exactly the same way that I was just demonstrating to you. It's arbitrary and it's idiosyncratic on your part.
Percent, I have a question. Who claims that there's 10 to the negative 17 torr there?
I don't know, man. The heliocentric model.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Not 1 times 10 to the negative 17?
No, 10 to the negative 17 is in outer space outside of the solar system.
At the Kármán line, it's 10 to the minus 2.
Yeah, and ISS is 10 to the negative 10.
Okay, how much is it in 100 miles?
Who cares?
Well, that's
10 to the minus 2, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, but the guy just said, Scott, weren't you the one that said there's these rockets going at 100 miles altitude?
So
Percent. Now, are you going to play the chemo game where you just forget what we show you and pretend like they don't exist? Like all those arguments we had about the Falcon 9 launch from Vandenberg, where I showed you those videos from Baja, Mexico, where they show from Baja, Mexico, and at the same time, people in Phoenix, Arizona see the same rocket from 300 miles apart. They're all looking at the same rocket, and that rocket is angled at an angle, which if you do the math over 300 miles, you know that rocket is at least 40, 50 miles up, 60 miles up at that point, and it's still accelerating and still climbing, even though it's already now past 99.99% of the atmosphere, it's still accelerating and climbing. I mean, come on.
I don't know if you looked at it, percent, but we do have the rocket in the vacuum.
Damn it! Did I cut it out?
Yeah, you did.
What was the last?
Look at it in slow motion.
What's the last thing I said?
We heard you.
That's not.
Boy didn't respond.
10 to the minus 2 is technically space.
It's not
easily achieved. 10 to the minus 2 is technically space.
Percent that
into space because the exhaust
isn't
dispersed if it would be in space.
Percent that Falcon 9 launch, where the guy takes the video of it in Baja, Mexico. You hear him talking Spanish in the back, and then there's also somebody in Phoenix taking the video at the same time. And the rocket's way up in the sky, clearly at least 50, 60 miles up.
Who knows how high?
It doesn't have to be.
It's already even at 40 miles. It's already 99.999% past the atmosphere. How is it continuing? How is it continuing to climb and accelerate?
Is there a barometer attached?
What do you mean? We know from high altitude balloons that are only 20 miles up, they're already 99.9% of the atmosphere is below them.
Okay, so is there a barometer attached for this thing that we can see the
Why would you need that? Why would you need that?
It's an arbitrary thing that he wants added to it so that he can deny it if it's not there.
So how are we supposed to know whether or not maybe the atmosphere is was
there an inflatable doll attached to the nose cone so that we could see the doll inflate as it gets up higher?
No, it's simple, bro.
I mean, we could just keep adding. We could just keep adding requirements to it.
There's no requirements, bro. They claim.
Did they have a barbecue grill on the side with hot dogs being made? using the combustion.
Okay, we're not arguing the altitude.
But they have a hot dog vendor on the side of the rocket that had a really long fork to grill the hot dogs in the back.
Okay, cool. Then we're not arguing the altitude. The only reason I mentioned
we're arguing absurdities, which is what you're doing right now.
I think it was Moyoc mentioned, or Scott. I don't know who mentioned it, but the only reason I specified that is because I know like the Kármán line is 100 kilometers or whatever, so that would be above the Kármán line, so it would be officially in space, right?
Yeah, 10 to the minus 2.
Sure.
Easily achievable on Earth.
Fine. Okay, let's do a 10 to the minus 2 to start with. Show us in a vacuum chamber that you can propel in 10 to the minus 2 into space. You're not letting any of the exhaust, like, get trapped, or it's dispersing as much as well as it would in space.
No, push it better.
It's so ridiculous. It's like you can continue to just.
It's not ridiculous at all.
Hold on, stop interrupting so much. You can continue to disbelieve all you want, but at the end of the day, the physics, the basic physics theory. Hold on. The basic physics theory tells us there's no reason to expect this would not happen. There's nothing about anything we understand about motion and force and all these things that tells us it wouldn't work. In fact, we have a law, Newton's third, which tells us it should work. And we have people saying, hey, I've done it, it works. We have video of that happening. We have pictures of that happening. We've set up vacuum chambers where maybe we didn't test exactly what the vacuum level was, but we made vacuums and we saw that it didn't affect the way things moved. And all that put together paints a picture that's more than reasonable, that has compelling evidence that yes, indeed, these things do work. And you disbelieve it. That's okay. Continue to disbelieve it. But this is good, solid, strong evidence.
It's like me asking, show me submarines working in like the depth of 300 meters.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you show it? You can't. So submarines are fake.
It might be compelling evidence for brainwashed people, Scott, but it's not compelling evidence.
See, that's just rhetoric, percent. That's rhetoric.
For people that critically analyze things,
yeah,
it's not.
It's just rhetoric.
Empirical evidence of which you have none.
It is empirical evidence. This is how evidence works. You're being rhetorical and insulting. It's just you're playing games, is what you're doing.
Here's a question. Why have they never? They have this huge vacuum chamber, right? They have a few of them. How come they've never shown propulsion in these vacuum chambers?
I don't know that they haven't ever shown propulsion. Why have you never found the video? I don't know why you haven't found a video. I somehow doubt that making videos for you to find is high on their list of action items.
Again, that's dishonest. It's not just.
No, it's not dishonest. It's really legit. It's like they make a vacuum chamber. They do things.
Even testing something.
And you've asserted they've never once used it to show that things move or to do things that move. That's dishonest because you don't know that's true. You're just making that. You're literally making that up based on nothing more than you haven't happened to see a video yet. Now that's dishonest. That's dishonest.
Bro, if you have any sort of substantiation for your burden of proof for the claim that you make, then please provide it.
Hey, what's dishonest is to say because you haven't found the video, it's never occurred. That's dishonest.
No, it's honest to say because the evidence hasn't arisen even after searching for it, then the claim is dismissed because the burden of proof is on you, not on me.
No, there's no burden of proof for anybody. You just believe something. You just believe something that has plenty of evidence. That's on you. You can choose whatever you want. You actually proving this to you is somehow a goal that people should aspire to. The fact that you are delusional is not of interest.
Your burden of proof you provide. I shouldn't do shit. You
don't have to do shit. You can live in a world where you disbelieve everything. It doesn't matter. It's okay.
We can live in a world where you believe everything.
Yes, we can. We can live in a world where we're reasonable. We look at the evidence and we believe the things that are true. And by the way, that happens to integrate us well and gives us opportunities for advancement and growth and enrichment while you continue to mumble to yourself somewhere in a dark corner of the internet and say, it's just not true. I don't know. It can't substantiate it.
Or everything works as it does on this observably flat and motionless Earth, and you guys are trying to hijack it and make it fit your narrative when it's not.
Because that makes a lot of sense. That's exactly what anyone would do.
That's exactly what you guys are doing.
By the way, what is funny to say? Think about this. Why is it you can't show us these video of a deep sea submarine, for example? But there's no video of it. Why is it that you're not declaring that there's no proof of those things either?
There are videos of deep sea submarines.
Show us one.
No.
And by the way, show us it's the right pressure level. I want to see a barometer on the outside of it too. Why is it that you're not saying the same thing? Why is it that you don't say the same things about the submarines?
Well, are you contesting the claim?
I'm asking why you don't say the same thing about the submarines when you have the same.
No, hold up. Are you saying that there's no evidence for deep sea submarines?
No, listen very carefully. I'm asking you why you don't make the same claim given the same situation.
Well, because I'm not contesting that claim.
Why? Is it as arbitrary as you're making it sound right now?
Because it's not relevant whatsoever.
It is relevant. It's the same exact situation.
What's up, bro?
I can make the claim. I can make the claim that no one has tested in laboratory the pressure that submarines have.
I'm confused with something. I haven't heard a global.
Hold on. Let's see what percent. I'm curious to hear how percent adjudicates this.
Well, if he made the claim that no one's tested it, that's fine. He can make the
Yeah,
claim.
no one tested it in a
Why
lab.
do you not make the same claims about submarines?
First off, he's making a negative claim. Okay, it's different.
Why do you not make the same claim?
That the globe earthers make with
I'm not making a negative
positive claim that this thing is actually propelling in the vacuum of X and X whatever Tor, right?
He's saying the exact same thing that you're saying. He's saying about submarines.
He's claiming it doesn't happen. It's a negative claim.
You're saying that we don't have. You're saying that we
it does
don't
happen.
test vacuum chambers. You're saying the same thing. We don't go to vacuum chambers to test. We don't send rockets to space. You're saying the same thing.
Again,
Can I say something real?
you're making a positive claim. The burden of proof is on you. If I was making a positive claim saying that these things do go down in the laboratory, these submarines, whatever, then I would prove that
you keep avoiding the question that's being presented to you. You're just being dishonest.
No, I'm actually addressing it.
Why do you not say the same things about the submarines? That's a different question.
Let the woman talk, okay? How about that?
Yeah, how about you answer the question? How about you answer the question?
I am. I just did. Go ahead,
You
bro.
didn't.
Why don't you
You're
have
avoiding it like
problems with submarines? Why don't you have problems with submarines?
So percentage.
I'm not making any claims in regards to submarines.
Wait, percentage. I didn't hear any globe earther just say or make the claim that we can use a rocket in 10 to the -2 Tor. You're the only one making that claim. Why should we find the video for you when you should find it for us?
Hold up. So, Lael, you're saying that you don't.
No, I'm saying.
Hold on. You're saying the geocentric model does not say that it's not claim that the rockets propel in the vacuum of space?
No, you're not listening to my argument.
I am listening. You're not making
made
sense.
the claim that stuff doesn't work in 10 to the -2 Tor, that there's
I
no
didn't
video
say that,
for it.
did I?
Why are we incumbent? Why is it incumbent?
I didn't say that, Lael. You got it wrong. You got to ask backwards.
No. Why
I
is
said
it
there's no
incumbent
substantiation
on us
for the
to do
claim.
your research when you could do it just as easy?
That there's no substantiation for your claim.
No. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Why
I'm
should we
listening,
do
you're wrong.
your research for you?
That's not how it works, bro. The burden of proof is on people that make the claim. You're making the claim. Where's the proof, bro?
Search for those things.
Lael, where's the proof? The burden of proof is on
Why do
people
we
making
have
the
to do
claim.
it for you?
Because the burden of proof is on you. That's the answer.
No, the burden
Yes.
of proof is on you because you're making the claim that it's not
No, I
there.
didn't make any claim. I said that there's no substantiation. Okay. So far, you haven't shown any substantiation. The substantiation should be shown by the person that made the claim. Simple as that.
I didn't make a claim, though. You're claiming that I made a claim that I didn't make.
The globe model makes the claim that these things are in orbit. Are you not a proponent of the globe model?
I'm a proponent of you providing evidence of your.
You're a proponent of me, baby.
You're doing the globe model and trying to make it our argument instead of the individual arguments we're making on points. Stop that. That is a super straw man.
That's what I'm saying, right?
I didn't straw man anyone. You guys claim these things are launching in space and propelling in space. You claim that time and time again.
At least be honest, percent.
Do you guys not claim that these things are propelling in space? Yes or no?
And find videos about
Submarines are real, yes or no?
of 10 to the -2 with the rocket in it. He needs to do that, not us.
What are you talking about, bro? I never claimed that. You claimed it. So you
said the submarines are real, though. You said submarines are real.
Leo, it's as simple as that. I don't know how you don't get this. Maybe that's why you're intellectually dishonest, because you don't understand the rules of logic. You make a claim to substantiate it. That's how it goes. If you're intellectually honest.
I never claimed it.
Okay, so you don't think that these things are? You don't claim that these things are?
I do believe we have gone
That's fine.
Why are you trying to make him defend a point that he didn't say?
He doesn't claim that they're propelling in space, so we'll leave him out of it.
The question.
I'll make a claim here. I believe that we went to the moon.
It's not about belief.
Sure it is.
Yes, it is.
No, claiming things as fact. Believing is just that's speculation.
I claim that we went to the moon.
Just made a claim.
And the reason I claim that because we can today, given the right angles, we can shoot lasers at the retro reflectors on the moon. How did those retro reflectors get there if we didn't go?
Lil, are you or are you not claiming that we
He just told you.
He just told you, bro.
He just told you.
Yes or no? Are you
He
claiming
just
that
told you, but stop being so dishonest. Answer his question.
No, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about propulsion in space, astronautics.
Oh, you want to switch back to that now? I see.
Is real or not, Leo?
Yeah.
Because his whole shtick is reliant upon him just sitting there and having people bring things to him to prove stuff to him.
That's how it goes.
He can then say, "Oh no, that's not good enough because of unreasonable reasons."
And you guys are making the alternate hypothesis.
Percent, could you stop over talking so much? Come on.
Perfect percent. I made the claim. We went to the moon.
All right. So show us the propulsion in the vacuum space that's necessary to go to the moon.
Can I finish my statement before you interrupt me? The evidence I accept that we went to the moon is that we can. There are retroreflectors on the moon, and if we shoot a laser at those retroreflectors, they'll come back. And so my logical deduction is those retroreflectors couldn't be there. Man-made retroreflectors couldn't be there on the moon if we didn't go to the moon.
Okay. How do you know that they're man-made retroreflectors?
Go.
Because
how do you know that they're man-made reflectors? How do you know that the moon's surface isn't just reflecting it naturally?
Because 1 centimeter next to it, it won't reflect anymore.
Maybe that's just the accuracy you need to aim it at the right part of the surface.
Aim it right at the right angle to hit the retroreflector. You can't just willy-nilly shoot it at the moon and get a reflection back from the retroreflector.
Maybe you need to hit it at the right angle off the surface of the Earth.
No, you have to hit the retroreflector at the right angle, or you're not going to get a reflection back.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe you have to hit the surface of the moon with the retroreflector at the right angle.
You have to hit the reflector anyway.
And then even if we were to take for granted that these supposed retroreflectors were on the moon, how do you know that they were placed by us?
Maybe
there's a moon-dwelling species that we don't know about.
Sure, maybe there is.
Okay, so this goes back to what we made earlier. That it doesn't matter what we say, you're going to come up with some sort of argument against it, no matter how silly, and claim that it's not because you come up with another alternative.
How did we find out that they are there?
When you can show that you can actually make space travel, like you can actually travel.
But you can't answer these. You can do anything for these. You can do this ad infinitum, which is what you do, and it's dishonest and it's boring.
It's not good evidence.
No, it is good evidence.
Going to the moon.
If that was true, there'd be no such thing as evidence. If that was true, there'd be no such thing as evidence. There would be no such thing as evidence then. Because anything could be, well, maybe there's a fairy that did it. Maybe there's a little green man on the moon that did it. Maybe there's a ghost that did it. You can say that ad infinitum.
Well, if you think that we went to the moon, do you not think it's necessary that we traveled through space to get there?
That you didn't respond to that.
I don't have to respond to that because I already said when we went to the moon, we traveled through space to get to the moon.
Perfect.
So why should I have to re-answer that question again?
Okay, so where is the substantiation for that claim that we traveled through space to get to the moon?
Show me there's no
video.
Retroreflectors on the moon and receiving a signal back from those retroreflectors.
No, the substantiation for traveling through space.
He just gave it to you. He just told you a logical argument.
No, he didn't. Because again,
you can't get to the moon without traveling through space. And we have something on the moon that we can see. We have something on the moon that we can see, so therefore we travel through space. That's logical.
Again, I've already explained how there could be alternate explanations to the retroreflector.
There can be alternate explanations for everything in the world. An alternative explanation without any thought to the likelihood. An alternative explanation without any thought to the likelihood. An alternative explanation without any thought to the likelihood is irrelevant and uninteresting. You can say that about anything, literally anything.
Again, he's affirming the consequence. I think this can only happen by physically
traveling. You can say that about anything.
Affirming the consequent policy, and you're guilty of it.
You can say anything. Anything has an alternative explanation. There isn't a single thing in the world that doesn't have one.
It's affirming the consequent policy. He has to show.
If you think that coming up with an alternative explanation, regardless of its likelihood, is a valid way to argue against space. Show us that nothing is true. You think that literally nothing is not defendable or beatable by saying an alternative explanation independent of how likely it is.
Scott, you're so dishonest, man. Let the guy talk.
You're the one that's saying little green men put retroreflectors on the moon, and you're calling other people dishonest.
The little green man?
You said.
I just want you to propose an alternative and then provide evidence for that alternative. Go.
That's not how it works, bro.
Yeah, you're going to say there's an alternative,
your claim,
and then provide evidence for that alternative.
No, that's not how it works. I don't have to, provide evidence for an alternate when the thing hasn't even been proven in the first place. You have to prove.
I made the claim. I said
prove it.
there were retro-reflectors on the moon, therefore we traveled through space to put them there.
The burden of proof has been met.
You come up.
You were the one who was trying to break a
How has the burden of proof been met? He said we travel through space to get to the moon. It's affirming the concept by saying that we can reflect a laser at what he thinks is off the moon. He doesn't know it's off the moon because he doesn't. There's no substantiation for that. It could be reflected off the ionosphere. It could be reflected anywhere in between you and the moon, and you're automatically assuming it's going to this physical object which you deem is the moon.
No, you need to fucking point at it on the moon.
Well, hold on. Even if it was able to reflect off an object before the moon, that would just make it closer, so the moon would be further away. Plus, you could set up your antenna in anticipation of where the moon will be. So you actually you'll build your antennas, you'll set them up, and then the moon moves into the direction of the antenna. It won't yield any results until the moon gets there. So I mean, it's kind of a reasonable deduction, isn't it?
It doesn't even matter if it is on the moon. It doesn't matter if it is on the moon, because if it is on the moon, even if you prove that part, you can't prove that the moon men that live there, that hide in the backside, you can't prove they didn't put it there. Percent made that very clear. That's a valid argument.
That is a joke, and I said if you took it to
granted, that was a joke.
Reflecting it, there were these moon reflectors on the moon.
Okay, and other people are dishonest, right? Other people are dishonest, but you're honestly telling us that was a joke before. Okay.
Yeah, it was a joke. If you take for granted that there are
I see how honest
moon, which again has not been substantiated.
I get it. It's all a joke.
Yeah,
when we run into you somewhere, you're gonna be like, "Oh, I was kidding the whole time. It's just a joke."
You non-stop.
That's a joke is you right now.
Hey,
I'm that way, doesn't it?
About the reflectors.
Man, I'm waiting for your substantiation of space travel.
Can I go? Can I go, please? Okay, so the retro reflectors on the moon, like I said,
proving that
we went to the moon. But to drill this home, I'm going to say this. I do 3 tests. I point a laser 1 degree off of the moon, so away from the moon. Then I point the laser at the retroreflectors. Then I point the laser back where I had it before, a degree off of hitting the retroreflectors. If I get a signal back in the middle one, that's evidence that, wow, there's something on the moon, that the moon is a physical object with a physical thing on the object reflecting the light back.
Maybe, or maybe the moon isn't a physical thing, and
no, it is physical.
Maybe the light of it is just somehow energizing the layers of atmosphere.
Maybe so, but
to reflect whatever thing.
Are you actually putting this forward as the possible?
You don't know because it's all unverifiable. Because you
substantiate your claim.
Ridiculous.
Giving an alternative substantiate.
The fact that you have to take for granted that's actually hitting these retroreflectors and you can't verify yourself.
Are giving an alternative substantiate that claim. Go. This is pointless because he's not going to do it.
All he does is make an alternative, no matter how absurd it is, and you can do that indefinitely. It's boring.
Do you think my little 3 test thing was
That's a pretty solid test. At least deductively, you can come up with that.
You're hitting it like at this angle, and you're assuming that it's hitting retroreflectors. It might just be hitting the moon's surface.
Because you can see. When it hits the moon's surface, when the laser beam gets there, it's several kilometers across. I think it's like 3 kilometers across. So some of it clearly hits the moon's surface, and we get a reflection from it. But there's a very big difference between it hitting the surface and it hitting a retroreflector, because the amount of light coming back from a retroreflector is it's a lot more intense than when it hits the surface.
And we can see
very distinctly when it's hitting the surface and when it's hitting a retroreflector.
Can we see the? Hold on, guys. Can we see when they shoot this light at the moon? Can we see it from Earth lighting up the moon, or?
No, try and expand in your mind. Try and expand a laser over a 3 kilometer area, and then you're going to try and see that optically. No, that's not going to happen.
They only get back a few photons from a large telescope.
Right. But they're a lot more concentrated when they hit the retroreflector.
If you hit it with enough energy to exceed the sun's light, 1,000 watts per meter squared over 3 kilometers, I mean, you could probably calculate how much energy you need a laser to see it.
I mean, can they do this at nighttime and then we can see it on the moon, or?
At nighttime, the moon is lit. Did you notice that?
You can see the laser beam going off into the sky, but eventually.
How do we know it doesn't go somewhere else?
It just fades into nothing.
Could it be the dome hitting the dome or something? Like, do we still get a reflection without the moon in place?
50,000 miles away, sure.
Yeah,
not only do we hit the moon, not only do we have to hit the moon, but we have to hit the right part of the moon.
Which means that the dome only returns exactly where the moon is in a certain part of the moon. Weird that.
That's some bullshit, man.
Yeah, it is some bullshit.
It is.
Yeah, it's bullshit that you guys are.
How big is this retroreflector that you guys claim is on the moon?
I think it's a meter across. I think there are several though. I think there are 3 from Apollo and 2 from the Russians. I think.
So we just have to believe that it's actually hitting a retroreflector as opposed to maybe some reflective part of the moon's surface.
No,
really? Why does that even make a difference?
That's a heartbeat.
There is a difference. There is a difference between the two. So I don't think you just have to believe it. You see the difference in the amount of the number of photons being returned from the 2 different surfaces.
How do you know that there's not a natural?
Does it really make a difference if you're hitting the reflector or the moon itself?
Yeah, it's a big difference.
But the thing with the retroreflector,
I've actually got an image of it somewhere where it's basically a graph. You just see all these little dots for all the photon returns, and there's a sort of a thick line of lots of dots that sort of about 2/3 of the way up this thing where they're. And that's where they're hitting the retroreflector, and the stuff surrounding it is when they hit the moon.
That makes sense. But from a practical perspective, just of hitting the moon, right? Either way, the moon is there, you're hitting it, it's that far away.
And the purpose of the retroreflector, as far as I'm concerned, is so you can get an exact measurement of distance to the moon. If you just use the surface of the moon, outside of the fact it becomes harder to measure, it also doesn't give you an exact measurement because it's measuring.
That makes sense. Okay.
Square kilometers, whatever.
Yeah, because they're trying to get. They're measuring it moving away from us at 2.5 centimeters a year or whatever. So you need to know exactly where your retroreflector is. If you're just hitting the moon, you could be hitting a mountain one day and a valley the next, and obviously that's going to make a big difference in its distance.
So Jim,
here's that image coming up. I've found it.
Jim, so a question for you: if I hit the moon and the laser spreads out, and like you're saying, not the retroreflector but the moon, doesn't that provide evidence that the moon is actually a physical object? Because how can a laser hit a non-physical object?
Well, I would say so, but I'm sure percent wouldn't.
I would say so, Leo.
What do you think, percentage?
What's up?
If you shoot a laser at the moon, not the retroreflector, and you watch the laser spread out as it hits the moon, does that provide evidence to you that the moon is a physical object?
Were the lasers completely straight and parallel before, and then suddenly it hits the moon and then it's all spread out?
Well, it spreads out as it goes to the moon, but yes, by the time it hits the moon, like Jim was saying, it spreads out to how far were you saying, Jim?
I think off the top of my head, I think it's 3 kilometers, but I could be wrong. But it's something. It's a small number of kilometers.
That was a lot of words for yes is the answer.
So no,
3 kilometers large. I accept the answer.
Well, the thing is, whatever I say, if I'm not very precise about how sure I am, it will be thrown back at me. So that's why I was elaborate.
I'm not even that pedantic. What I would first actually ensure, Lale, is that because we know that the light is spreading out as it goes. So I would first compare the divergence of the light rays before it hits the moon to after it hits the moon.
Okay, but that's not the question really. Yes, the light rays diverge and hit the moon. How can the light rays hit the moon if the moon is not a physical object?
Well, who knows what the moon is?
Spread
We
out.
don't know what it is.
Oh, physical?
We don't know. It could be. The ionosphere is not physical.
I am claiming that I do
radio
know.
signals bounce off of that, so we don't know what it is.
I do know that it's a physical object.
You don't know that.
Lemonberg used logic too and said, yeah, that would mean it would be a physical object.
You don't know it just because you're getting like something's reflecting off it that it's physical.
No, I'm not saying reflection off of it. I am saying
That's not the only characteristic, though, right?
spreads out. Like, for
I mean,
example,
we look at it and it looks like a physical object. It's got features and craters and shadows. It doesn't look like magic. It doesn't look like you're looking into a portal to a kaleidoscope. It just looks like a physical object.
You're right. Yeah, it does look like a physical object.
Okay.
And it's illuminated in precisely the same way as all objects on Earth are illuminated. So that lets you know that the sun. That lets you know that the sun is illuminated. That lets you know that the sun is illuminating both of them. So that makes it pretty
No, I don't think the
indisputable.
sun is illuminating the moon.
let me do two.
Why is it then if you hold up a ball, it's reflected the same? It's illuminated the same way that the moon would be in the same phase.
I'm not sure it is. Because there's not as much of a
Dude, there's
spectrum
lots of
as you
demonstrations. I've even done them on here for people and posted it, okay? Lots of people have done this. It's online. You can do it anytime you want to. Don't even for a second try to suggest that that's not the case.
No, it is the case, actually, because there's not as much of a spectral highlight as you would expect.
We're moving away
from the moon.
There's not much of a
sunlight hits the moon.
Really?
Not much of a spectral highlight. So I think that this is the case.
Calm down.
There's no spectral highlight on the ball.
You're really gonna.
What I'm trying to point out. Okay, percentage. If I get a light like a flashlight and shine it at my wall, the light will spread out when it hits the wall. And I can know that the wall is a physical object because I can touch it. Now, when I shoot a laser at this moon, and it does the same thing as the flashlight light on the wall, I can make a logical deduction from that the moon is actually a physical object because my wall, it provides the same
Yeah, there's the same effect, so you can infer that. It's a physical object.
Therefore, if a laser spreads out and when it appears to hit the moon, we can say that the moon is a physical object. And as Jem showed on that thing, when lasers hit the moon, they spread out. Therefore, the moon is a actual physical object.
Again, you can infer that, and you would be
Not
probably.
infer,
It's
it's
probably
logical
likely.
deduction.
Listen, yeah, it's probably likely to infer that it's a physical object if that happens. It's not 100% because we know that these electromagnetic that radiation can reflect off of gases as well.
Reflection.
Because they reflect off of ionospheres, right? Like the ionosphere reflects the radio waves. So we know that it's not only big physical objects, but maybe even a layer or a culmination of smaller physical objects as well, or like smaller particulates.
We're talking about how light spreads when it hits an object, a physical object. That's all I'm talking about. If the light spreads when it hits the moon from the laser, then we can deduce, because the light spreads when a flashlight hits a wall, that the moon is also a physical object. And voila, that occurs. So therefore, the moon is a physical object. I have no problem stating that as a fact.
Okay, there's two different things that you're talking about. You're talking about light spreading.
I'm talking about the same thing, light diverging as it hits a physical object and spreading out. That's what I'm talking about.
But light is always spreading out, provided there's matter, right? As long as it's not being obstructed, that it's going to continue spreading out, right? Yeah, smoke is obstructive. It's opaque, so that's what it's like blocking the light. But as long as it's not opaque and it's not blocking the light is going to refract.
Percent. What validity does that have? And let's see, are you claiming that the moon is a collection of gas that always appears the same?
I'm not claiming that, but I'm saying in collections of gases.
Then why are you bringing it up? Because it doesn't seem to be any relevant to the point.
Hold up, it is relevant because he's saying that if it's reflecting, then therefore it's a physical object. So we know that's not the case, and we know that. And then he's saying if it's diverging, and hitting this thing, then it's a physical object. But we know that's not the case either because it's diverging as it goes through the atmosphere as well.
I am saying.
So again, Lael, I know what you're saying. And again, I'll agree with you that it's very like.
Now, what is the point of what you're actually saying, percent?
We can make the claim that it's probably likely, but we can't say it beyond reasonable doubt that it is because we don't have.
No, it is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not. It's not beyond it. It is beyond a reasonable doubt. You have provided something that is an unreasonable alternative.
You provided evidence for your alternative. I'll believe it, but I provided evidence for my alternative, and you rejected it.
You are totally unreasonable in your responses.
Not definitive evidence. Definitive evidence would be if we were on the moon's surface, we could actually confirm that the light is being reflected, and we can see it.
And that proof you don't believe.
If I was standing on the moon, it would prove that the moon was a physical object. Because how could I stand?
And I could always not, and we could always not be on the moon. Percent. We could be at a studio, and someone could have tricked us the whole time.
Yeah, you definitely could have.
So therefore, nothing is substantiated.
Congratulations! It's your own game played against you right there. You can add an alternative regardless of how silly it is ad infinitum, and nothing becomes definitive.
Oh, you're saying hypothetically, if we're on the moon, confirming that it's actually hitting, we could be actually in a Hollywood studio.
No, I'm saying if we are standing on the moon, me and you standing on the moon, we can know for a fact, 100% certainty that the moon is a physical object.
Yeah, you can know for a fact.
I can care less about the light rays shooting at the moon diverging at that point because I am standing on the moon and it's physical.
Exactly. So that's definitive evidence.
Well, unless you're secretly on a studio and you don't know it.
If we went to the moon, we would know what that.
Anyway, you might be drugged, you might be hypnotized.
Even if I was at a
who's to say that nobody would be capable of tricking you? What if you were actually?
You guys are.
What if somebody actually drugged you and they have a dream programming machine?
Yeah, we might build a fake moon in which to trick you.
If we're on the moon, then you would have definitive evidence.
Build a fake moon with which to trick you. Percent that's possible. You have to admit that's possible.
Yeah.
I don't get tricked. That's why I'm not a blob.
Hey, percent. Check this. What if the machine and the people who are architects in what the hell is that movie? Inception are real, and they just made you dream you were on the moon.
Yeah.
What about like Capricorn 1?
That's the problem with your position, percent. Is
don't dream of that stuff.
Literally, hey, percent, stop interrupting everybody. Literally, you've written yourself into a situation in which you can't believe anything because everything has an alternative. Everything has an alternative. It doesn't matter what you say.
No, again, beyond reasonable doubt.
Tell us one thing that doesn't have an alternative. Tell us one thing that doesn't have an alternative.
There's a lot of things that don't have alternatives beyond reasonable doubt.
No, that's not your criteria. That's not your criteria. Your criteria is any other alternative explanation.
No, I said beyond reasonable. I keep on saying this.
You say that you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. Hold on, percent. Stop interrupting. You say that you have to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. So therefore, you say that your alternative explanations, whether or not they're reasonable, are enough to disprove reasonable doubt. So, for example, you'll say. Hold on, you'll say there could be little men on the moon that put the retroreflector up. That's one of the examples of things you'll say. Or you'll say, well, for all we know, it's a special convergence of the cosmic dust or something. Not necessarily any evidence for it, just make something up. So why is it that you think that we can't do that for everything?
You know why we can speculate and say that stuff? Because there is no definitive evidence.
There's no definitive evidence for anything on that criteria.
If you have definitive evidence, you wouldn't be making those. You couldn't make
evidence for anything in that criteria.
You know what the cause is.
There's no definitive evidence for anything with that criteria. That's the point.
There is definitive evidence for a lot of things. Beyond reasonable doubt. There's definitive evidence for the Earth being observably flat and motionless.
Exemplify.
When we look at the horizon, definitively we see it's flat. We don't see a curve.
Exemplify it.
Well, eventually we do step out with our mind and choose to believe stuff if we think that there's enough justified evidence. It's just whether or not we jumped out a little bit too early before we got lied to, like with the space narrative. I used to believe in space too, but then I had to believe all this weird stuff to believe that it was possible. So I had to let it go.
What's something that's definitive, percent?
I have a question for percent.
You don't have anything, do you?
What's up, Lou?
That's what I thought.
When you go to the store and you get rang through the register with your products, do you say, well, I have an alternative price that I want to pay? Or do you accept the price that they give you and pay it?
Usually I know what the price is because each individual item has a price tag.
But do you come up with an alternative for that price tag?
No.
I don't accept this. I want an alternative.
It has a definite price. It's definitive.
Yeah, but
Not a definite price. No, I could always come up with a reason why it's not the definitive price. I could feel it, and the price could be free.
I'll haggle a little bit.
Really? Because stores can mark up and down prices all the time. So how do you know that particular item you're taking to the cash register is the definitive price?
It's the price that is associated with it. That's the way stores work. If it's a flea market or something and they give me a price that's not as...
You didn't really answer the question.
A price that's not as definite, I should say, then I can haggle a bit and I could get it at a better price.
Then
what if I told you at Walmart that nope?
Because you can always do that. You can always say, I don't want to pay $1.99. Can I have it for less?
Percent. What if I told you that a lot of the prices for things at Walmart? Yeah. Percent. What would you tell if I told you a lot of the things at Walmart, their price is not definitive because discounts are subjective to the will of the store manager, and price markdowns and price matching. You've lost the definitive nature of pricing.
No, it's not a definitive price, but there's other definitive changes that could be made.
All right, how many times has a company got in trouble because the price was wrong from the advertised price?
A lot.
It often happens.
So why don't you go to the supermarket today and say, this is not a definitive price. I want to pay $1.50 for this TV.
Well, he asserts that it is
you're using the word wrong. It would be, in terms of a price, it would be a definite price. The exact price would right?
Well,
and again,
if the price of something is definitive, then that means that the same item is at two different stores. They should have the same price.
And coupons shouldn't work. Discounts shouldn't work.
You don't realize how deep the hole you keep digging yourself into is, and it's really quite frustrating that you're this blind.
He's just a po dude.
That's why it's called the rabbit hole.
I'm gonna start calling you fucking Edward Shovelhands. You just keep digging it deeper, my man.
He's getting worse.
It's cool. It's cool. You guys are scared.
We're not scared. You're getting worse, percentage.
You're the one that's actually providing evidence for your claims.
You're the one that runs.
Hey, give me some evidence for bacteria.
Yo, bacteria is a real thing, bro. We know this.
Yeah, but give me the evidence then.
Hold up. Are you claiming it's not a real thing?
Give me the evidence. He's saying it's not. Give me the evidence.
I'm claiming I'm claiming bacteria is as real as the moon and space and everything.
Cool. I'd say it's
How about that?
Things haven't been proven.
How about that?
Okay, so in that case, by definition,
To
then
me,
you're picking up
it's
and
the
saying
same.
that bacteria are unproven.
You're gonna give him the evidence or not, percent?
He already said he thinks that bacteria is real, so we have no.
I'm not saying that. You want definite proof of something, and now I'm asking for definite proof of something you believe in.
So do you think that? Do you think
there's no proof?
You said bacteria is real. He said, "Let me see."
Perfectly capable of having a conversation.
It's not hard, dude. You said it's real. You made the positive claim. I heard you. You did say that. So what's the evidence?
Bro, are you claiming that bacteria isn't real?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's real. I heard you make a positive claim.
If there's no disagreement, then there's no contention. There's no need to.
We have a disagreement.
I just don't see the logic that you need more proof for space than a bacteria, because it's the same fucking thing for you. You yourself cannot prove a bacteria exists.
I don't believe in bacteria.
Feel it.
I don't believe in bacteria. Percentage, show me the evidence. I don't believe in bacteria, bro. I don't believe in bacteria. Bacteria are fake.
Made this positive.
Okay, if you don't believe in bacteria, you need to drink some bleach, man, and see what happens.
Show me evidence, percentage. I don't believe in bacteria.
No,
that's why I said drink bleach.
Even make that.
You made the positive.
So you're telling me to do something. You're telling me to give you what I'm asking for. I'm asking for evidence of bacteria.
Calm for a second. Jose is running this process. Taking the position he doesn't believe they exist. You don't have to attack you for that. Percent, please, present to him.
Yeah, then these guys tell me drink bleach. Why? I'm asking you to provide something. You're telling me to do something on myself. No, I'm asking you to back up your claim that bacteria exist.
I claim that they exist.
Drinking bleach don't prove bacteria.
You said that bacteria exist.
So, we were talking a lot. Did I, to the crowd, did I actually say bacteria exist?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did earlier.
All
yes,
right, give me a second. That's actually my burden of proof.
Also, I would like to know, are you saying that space is fake?
He says he doesn't know.
Yeah. So then there's no
Don't
disagreement.
get him off. And don't get him off. Don't get him off topic here. Let him prove that bacteria exists,
Right.
and we'll come up with some reasonable alternatives.
Yeah, we need laboratory tests and in different pressures.
Well, the thing is, we have some evidence of something from space, but very few people have gone there, and some of the pictures do look to be CGI. So, short of affordable space travel, it's going to be kind of unbelievable.
All right, here you
What
go.
about the pictures of bacteria?
It can be fairly well believed in because if you put out the conditions for bacteria to grow, you get a predictable reaction. You don't get predictable results with space.
That's a microscope. That's not a
P900. In a compound microscope. Seeing is believing.
It's not taken with a P900, so it's
So do I have to believe this guy? Who is this guy, Bernard Jenny? What if he's paid to say this information to me?
He's a Mason.
Or what if it's not real?
Just look at the thing, man. Don't even just look at the microscopy slide.
Prove it's not animated.
Well, there's also videos and pictures from space, so I mean, we're kind of equal there. Both exist, bacteria and space.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No, this looks like you just did. This looks like an art project, man. Are you sure that this is real? I don't think so.
Yeah, you could be just fooled here.
CGI, to me.
Yeah, how do I determine if I can trust this guy, this Bernard Jenny, or whoever channel this is? What if this is a mockumentary channel,
Hey, you don't have to trust it, bro. But I think bacteria are real. I didn't specify what bacteria was. I didn't give a definition for it. So maybe my definition for bacteria is just things moving in a slide in this video.
Okay.
So what make you just accept this one as real?
Because the first one I found on Google.
Totally honest percent.
He has different standards for evidence.
Yep.
Different standards for evidence. Yeah. Dishonesty, as usual.
Well, part of what we use for knowledge is action. So if this thing is true, it should guide pretty well, clear action. So if we're assuming that this bacteria is there, we should be able to grow it and see it under a microscope, which we can. With space, we can't go there. We can't guide any intelligible action.
We can go there.
How do you know we can grow it? How do you know someone didn't just go put it there, or someone didn't just dirty up a microscope so that it looks like it's there?
After a while, you do have to step out in faith and just choose to believe it with all the evidence. But with space, there's a couple holes there. So,
and also when you dirty up the microscope, then bacteria have like a place to fester and form, and so you're going to be looking at bacteria.
This has
you can also look at planets with a telescope.
It could be an undiscovered organism called Flugelthorpe, which is actually a larval human, which is why all of a sudden people like you pop up.
Larval human. Oh my God! What humans do you know of that start out like that but don't develop into humans? Bacteria are short-lived; they die after
lemon.
hours. Some of them.
Lemon. I've never seen you, so you must be a bacteria.
So we use similar action to go back to a similar source. So with the epistemology of similar action, similar thing, you can determine whether or not something's bacteria or a human. Can you do that with the space narrative? Not really.
Lemon, you are completely missing the point of this whole argument, which is Percentage using an arbitrary idea of what he finds reasonable and using that as a litmus in order to deny things. We're doing the same thing to him and a little bit of a parody of the extreme just to fuck with him.
Beautiful.
And for some reason, and you're falling, and you're so lost in the conversation.
It's not working though.
And you're so fucking lost in the conversation that you're actually trying to defend him. That's the sad part.
Well, this is a good exercise for the postmodernists that deny truth that we encounter, in every day of our lives nowadays. How do we formulate truth other than, consensus in institutions like NASA that we're asked to trust, unquestioningly? How do we really find the truth in this postmodern anti-truth age?
Like religions.
Okay, so
religion looks like scientism is the new religion. It's the only way that you're allowed to make foundational thinking. You're not allowed to have God in your heart. You're only allowed to have scientism and mechanical technology in your heart.
Scientism. No.
God is irrelevant. You can't test God. You can't do anything with God.
It looks like increasingly you can't test this scientism either. So it looks like we have a religion that's called everything else other than a religion by name called scientism.
What scientism and what can you not test about science?
Scientism is excessive belief in scientific methods, institutions, people, etc., as the only source of gathering truth, to the exclusion of other methods.
The scientific. Can you with the things that are discovered through the scientific method? Can you test them?
Getting back to the space narrative, unless I can go out and test the space narrative by getting a car and going out thousands of miles into space,
That's not an
no.
experiment. That's not an experiment. That's not an experiment. That's
But
just
at
an
that point, we're
observation.
trusting institutions. That's scientism. That's not a testable, verifiable scientific method on that level. That's trusting institutions that are scientific. That's scientism.
Lemon. There's no experiment for the observation of low pressure. I mean, it's dumb to say that, but there is. So it has nothing to do with the scientific method.
Scientism says that the only way to verify truth now is by scientific methods, institutions, and people and experts. That's scientism.
Is the medical world, is that also scientism?
By religious people.
They've become the new religion. Now we need to check the quality of the institution, its priests, and its proponents, and check the quality of its utopian vision.
And nothing wrong with utopia. But does the medical world also fall under scientism or not?
Does the what? The miracle world?
The medical.
Medical. It has a little bit of that.
Yeah, so scientism is just something that's bullshit you shove into the scientism.
On the other flat earth server, there was a guy, he talks about scientism. Maybe he gets this from...
Yeah, I mean, scientism is just a made-up word that everything that you think is bullshit, we stuff under that. That's scientism. Even if it's medical, space-related, Earth-related, it doesn't really matter. If it's wrong, it's scientism. That's fucking...
Well, since languages evolve, words are created all the time to demonstrate a phenomena and encapsulate the phenomena in a term to describe it. The excessive belief in the scientific methods, institutions, and people as the only way to find truth and operate is called scientism.
Yeah, because the whole point of science is to disprove it. That's the whole point of it. Disprove it. And if you can't disprove it, only then it's true.
Lemon, is there something that they got wrong? The institutions or the scientific method?
Looks like they got the germ theory wrong. Looks like bacteria and viruses are helpers inside of our body that are only triggered to become virulent if we have an acidic, poorly nutritioned body. So it looks like we got a few things wrong with a couple elements.
Infect other people. That is why you can infect other people. Well,
this is the effect of the scientism. We're shutting down America's economy because of scientism and excessive belief in the WHO's catastrophic models about COVID, saying we're all going to die unless we shut down the economy. That's what scientism does when you don't question it. You get a bunch of BS going on.
Lemon, that's like me saying that we live on a cube, so geometry is scientism and pseudoscience.
Yes.
You have no backing for your claims. You're just spouting bullshit and just waiting for us to accept it.
Also, you have to remember that we actually want to kill everyone, and we're not trying to.
Yeah.
We're literally making sure everybody's acidic, so they will die.
First, they want to kill everybody, then they want to save everybody.
Yeah. So what?
No, but about COVID, you can also see it as a good drill, a good fucking drill. Because when Ebola breaks out, for example, then shit really hits the fan. And see what you get then. Will people then take it seriously?
Probably not. But the good thing is that we know all the Muppets would meet up at specific locations so we can sort of infect them all at once. So that's a plus. We have this established practice of demonstrations and protests and shit, right?
Well, if they really want to do something like this, they will definitely do it better and probably via water anyway, so...
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Ebola is not going to be the doom, but... There'll be something
I'm just saying, I see COVID more as... See it as a nice drill, because when it really shit hits the fan with a virus like Ebola, just really killing, like the pest or whatever, the Black Plague, I welcome it.